Hey everyone, it's Al, the dog trainer. Welcome to episode number 36 of Ask Al. This is the special Game of Thrones, Cinco de Mayo edition. So made margaritas for the crew here. And if this is your first time watching, the purpose of the show is to answer any kind of dog training questions that you have, or you can also ask business questions or just any type of question that you would like for me and maybe even Mandy to answer, right? Mandy does some pretty cool stuff with artwork. But there's any type of questions that you guys have. I really do appreciate each and every one of y'all that is watching this tonight. If you're watching this after the fact and you're needing help with your dog, I'm devoting my life to creating free content. I'm going to give away all my knowledge so that way you don't ever have any questions about, hey, what do I do in this particular situation, or what do I do then? So if you have a question tonight, feel free to answer. Feel free to ask. If you're watching this after the fact, just drop it down in the comment section below. I do my best to get to each and every one of those questions and then either answer it in the comment section, or I'm going to also answer it, maybe answer it in one of these shows as well. But I have a variety of ways to be able to help you, anywhere from these Facebook Lives, my YouTube channel, we're on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm also in your Amazon Echo if you have one of those. So we've got a lot of different stuff. I'm just going to make sure that this is actually up and going, because sometimes if you ever run anything like this, if you're a dog trainer and you ever run something like this can get pretty complicated trying to get live streams up. So let's see if it's up.
I saw it pop up.
Yeah, you saw it pop up?
All
Yeah,
right.
so there it is. So anyway, hey, thanks to everybody that's watching this. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button and also share this with your friends. Send it to your family. Send it to anybody that you know that has a dog that might be struggling, because we want to help. So, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started after Mandy takes her. Yeah, you can gulp a little bit here. I'll take a sip.
Okay.
If you're wondering what we're drinking, guys, this is a Patron Silver and Cointreau margarita. So I learned how to make these at Papacitos, like 20 years ago when I was a bartender. I was a little rusty, but I got to say, it's pretty tasty. So it's a pretty good margarita. So, all right, so here we go with question number one. Go ahead.
Can you describe your methodology?
Yeah, it's a really good question. What is my methodology? And we're going to do something. I'm going to look at you this time as I'm talking, because maybe it'll help out. So we try different things when we're shooting this. Like sometimes I like to look at the camera, but sometimes I'll look at Mandy so people don't think that she's just ignoring me all the time. She likes to do that anyway. But so, when I think about my methodology, and I've really been giving this question a lot of thought over the past few days, because we get questions, like I see people calling into the business and wondering, like, hey, how do you train a dog? So I think the best way that I can actually answer what is my methodology is I train the individual that is in front of me, whether it's a human, whether it's a dog. What I'm trying to do to the best of my ability every time that I meet a person or meet a dog is I try to listen to them very well. So like for you, we've been friends for about a year now, and I really try in our conversations to listen to you, to understand, like, who are you? It's the exact same thing that I do with the dog, except with the dog, I don't listen to the dog with my ears. I listen to the dog by watching them and observing the choices that they make in the moment. And then what I do is I use my experience and I ask myself questions. Okay, this is what the dog is telling me. This is where we want to go with this particular dog. How can I help the individual that's right there in front of me to be able to do the best? One of the reasons that we get this question a lot is because there's an ideology out there. It's called the purely positive movement. And in that ideology, you are restricted to only giving the dog a reward for doing what's right, or withholding that reward if they do something that's wrong. And that's absolutely correct training if you're doing that. There's an inherent problem with it, and the problem is that sometimes the dog just doesn't want what you have, and to use that as a form of punishment doesn't work. So there's a lot of dogs that actually, when you're trying to use rewards-based training only, they won't actually accept the thing that you're trying to give them as a reward. So what I've got to do as a dog trainer is I've got to look at them. I got to look at my client. I got to look at the dog, and I got to make a determination about what is best for that individual based on the experience. And then the other thing that I do for all you guys that are watching this is I'm not afraid of making the mistake. Let's say that I choose to do something. I'm not afraid of making that mistake, but the real mistake in the methodology is to do something and not observe what that thing does and learn from that. Because really the people that are best at anything are the ones that are doing something and always learning from the thing that they're doing to be able to grow and to continue to help. One repetition of any one particular thing isn't going to dramatically change anybody's life. Like the things that actually fall under those categories, they're pretty small and few and in between. But they do exist, but we don't deploy those things when we're getting to know somebody. We're getting to know a dog. So my methodology, for all of you guys that are watching this, my methodology is actually to train the dog and the human that's in front of me in a way that's going to make them better to handle the world and better to be able to handle, even that individual moment. That doesn't mean that they're always going to be happy though. Okay. Sometimes the best things for us, we're like afraid of doing them. And then when we do them, then we come to the realization some point later in the future, maybe a minute, maybe months or years down the road as humans, and then we understand that that was the best thing that we could have possibly done. And so if that's the best way that I can possibly explain the methodology, I'll give one more tidbit. The vast majority of what I do is building habits. But those are the ones that actually take the most amount of time to build because there's like such a volume of repetition that you got to have for the dog to build reps. And so by me enabling humans to know how to build the repetitions of the things they want, this is really where I spend the vast majority of my time. So there's the answer, that long-winded answer, if you will. But I think that's just the best way that I can encompass what my methodology for training humans and also training dogs is. Okay, so what's next?
Next is, can you teach a Doberman to do tricks?
Well, a Doberman is just like any dog, okay? Pretty much any dog can learn how to do a trick. And there's so many different tricks. The American Kennel Club has a fantastic program for trick dogs. As a matter of fact, Gabby, my youngest German Shepherd, who's now about 3 years old, she has the trick dog novice title. I think that if I stopped training you guys so much, then maybe I could actually train, my dogs for some more tricks. But the answer is particularly any dog can do tricks. A Doberman is a very smart dog, and they can do a lot of tricks. So if you're actually looking to getting into trick dog training, what I would recommend is going to Google and Googling AKC trick dog, and then you're going to be able to see a lot of different things here. You're going to see the trick dog novice, the trick dog advanced. I think there's even like a trick dog performer, and I think now they even added like a trick dog elite level. So there's all these different things you can do. When you go to their website and you download this list of tricks, you're going to see like 20 different tricks that your dog can pick from. And I got to be honest with you, the novice level, it is so incredibly easy. And I say that because you're allowed to have the food in your hand. You can literally put the food to the dog's nose to get it to do the trick. So if you're really wanting to get started in dog training, you're not quite sure what to do, but your basics are good, I would go ahead and start doing some of those tricks because it can really be fun. Something like teaching your dog to spin, teaching your dog to twirl, clockwise and counterclockwise, maybe teaching your dog to bark on command, or even teaching your dog to balance a treat on their nose. All these things are really cute, and they can really help build the bond of your dog if your foundation is particularly good. So trick dog training is something that we do. I am an AKC Canine Good Citizen Evaluator, and that allows me to evaluate dogs. But yes, we can also train tricks. And if you ever want to learn about a trick, just let me know. I'd love to be able to help you. Maybe we're going to do some more stuff with Gabby doing tricks too. Okay. So let me get another sip and then
drink up.
Yeah, I got to drink up. I got to watch Game of Thrones after this. So
okay. This question is, should my female dog be on a different diet when she is in season?
That's a really good question. So I'll tell you guys a story. Back in the day, 3 years ago when I got Gabby, I remember talking to her breeder and telling him I would love for her mom to be eating a particular bag of dog food before she actually gets pregnant. Like I was like, I know that's kind of out there, but I've been reading. I'm definitely not a scientist, but I love science and I love all the things that it teaches us, about who we are and about who our dogs are. So I feel that everything that you eat is actually going to become a part of your body. Okay, and so I think that a dog. Let me just make sure I get the question right. How do I?
Should my female dog be on a different diet?
Well, I think so. I think your female dog should be on a different diet because you're needing to feed them something that's going to be able to sustain possibly anywhere from 4 to 10 other small little lives that are growing inside of her. And so making sure not only that the volume of food is correct, but that you're feeding your dog a food that enhances her genetics the best possible. There's a number of years ago, I read a book, read parts of a book, I think it was called Pottinger's Cats. And it was really interesting because in the book, they could see how these cats that were eating this food, how it was having affect generations down the line. Like the cat would eat this meal and then they could see that displayed in the genetics. Now, it's been probably about 7 or 8 years since I read that. But feeding your dog the best possible diet that you can get them is a really good way of doing it. Now, let's just say that maybe you're on a little bit of a limited budget and you can't necessarily feed these $70, $80, and $90 a bag dog foods. Well, one of the things that I'm always recommending that I think is a good way to go is sardines and sardine oil for dogs that are nursing, because the omega-3s that are in there, DHA and EPA, are really particularly powerful, and those are the ones that are actually going to form the brain. So yes, your dog should be on the most nutritious thing that you can feed it. I would recommend a dog food that's based on whole foods. But if you can't do that, you're a little bit more on a budget, then the best thing that you could do is introduce some sardines. You can go to the grocery store and just get the ones in water and start feeding your female dog that, because I think that's going to be real rich for her. The skin in particular is the one of the richest sources for that very important fat for your dog. So I'd really try to stay away from very, very high carbs at the time, but I don't want to sit here and say that carbs are evil, because you do need them to some degree. Your dog needs them to some degree, but those proteins, and especially that omega-3 fat, is pretty important. So, all right, what's next?
How do I keep my puppy from nipping?
So how do you keep your puppy from nipping? If it's less than 6 months of age, you actually can't. It's just really, it's a tough thing, with nipping puppies. And what I recommend to anybody that gets, any one of the working breeds, like a Belgian Malinois, a Doberman, a German Shepherd, and there's a lot of other breeds that I'm leaving out, but I think about those guys a lot, these herding dogs, these shepherd dogs, and these working dogs, that they're meant to bite. These dogs are meant to bite, use their mouth. And I think a better thing, instead of teaching a dog to nip, is to teach the dog how to use their mouth responsibly. The responsible use of your dog's mouth is, one, very useful for humans. Your dog can fetch. Your dog could possibly protect you. Your dog can do a lot of really different things with its mouth. And so to take it away from it is a fool's errand, because the dog is going to use its mouth the whole life. But the other thing that you may not be considering is every time that the dog is actually using its mouth, almost every time that the dog is using their mouth, it is a source of happiness for the dog. To bite something, the vast majority of the time for your dog, it makes your dog emotionally feel great. As a matter of fact, today I was practicing with my protection dog club, and I didn't have a ball with me. I literally had a piece of leather with some nylon on the end of it that is called a tug. I had my tug, and every time that Gabby would do one of the things that I asked her to do, she got to use her mouth, and that was the form of reward. So if you have a nipping puppy and you're really struggling, then get the puppy to do something that's useful for you, like something like staying, or something like sitting by your left-hand side, or coming back to you. And then after they do that, let them bite something that you're okay with them biting, and then tell them how happy you are when they do that. If you do that, it's a positive feedback loop, and the dog will learn to bite something that you actually care for, and it will build the behavior that you're actually after. And so that can really be a very positive way to introduce your dog. Because, you know, if your dog is biting a lot and doesn't get to bite anything, and then you're correcting for the dog, then why even have a dog? Because they're going to use their mouth. Now, on the flip side of the coin, it's just worth mentioning that at some point, if your dog is biting a whole bunch of stuff and you're playing with the dog and the dog's still biting you, it's more than acceptable to tell your dog no. And there's a variety of tools, including prong collars and slip leashes. The prong collar is designed to mimic the mom's mouth, the puppy's mouth. The puppy mom, let me see if I can say it right. The puppy dog's mom's mouth. I can't talk, okay? So it's meant to mimic the adult dog's mouth. And so when the puppy's out of hand, you know, kind of getting too rough, the mom dog will bite them. Not to eat them and not to hurt them, but to let them know to back off. And so using a tool like a prong collar, if you understand how to use it properly, can actually tell your puppy to bite less. But you shouldn't start there. You actually start by showing the dog how to interact with its mouth in a good way. You manage the dog in a good way. And then if it is too much, then yes, you do have to say no. And you got to do it in a way that is clear and effective for the puppy. Are we getting some questions in?
No. Well, Jamie made some comments.
Jamie, you can't talk, Jamie.
About her Dobermans.
Yeah, why can I not see the comment? Why can I not?
So you had it on quiet mode?
What the? Oh, okay, do it. What the heck? Like, I'm technologically challenged here, guys. Let's see. What? There we go.
That was weird.
So there's Charles, there's my mom, and two other people. Mike, howdy, Mike. Okay. Dobermans aren't just like any other dog. Yeah, they are. They're super special. I kid. Teach them. Well, yeah. Why do they keep disappearing?
I don't like that. I don't
what
know.
the heck is up with that? Teach them all tricks. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Hey, Jacqueline, how you doing? Hi, Mandy. See that you're there. How do you teach? Oh, okay. How do you teach direction changes at a distance for searching or having the dog pushing livestock? Dude, I have no idea because I've never had my dog. Why can it not? Why will they not stay up there? Why do the comments keep disappearing?
It's because Facebook likes to do updates and mess everything up. That's
what
why.
What the hell, man? Like, is it? Oh, look at that. Yeah, there we go. Man, my brain's like really big. That's the Patron talking right there. Hey, I just like to make jokes sometimes with Mandy because I love the looks that she gives me when I get a little outrageous. So, yeah, you know, Mike, this question that you got about how do you teach direction changes at a distance? Like, the way that I've always taught directions is I've always taught the dog directions incrementally. And what I do is I use road cones and I teach dogs to circle the road cones and come back to me. But the important thing in the directions is I'll point, and then the dog goes to it and I'll reinforce. I'll point the other direction, the dog does it, and I reinforce, I point. So I teach the dog how to read, the different types of body language that I do. Now, I'm just imagining this, and I don't, I've never worked a livestock dog, but I kind of have an imagination for this kind of thing. So when I'm thinking about when a dog on livestock and trying to teach direction changes, you need the dog to be able to look directly at you as a handler. So you need something to cue the dog. Now, I know there's a lot of dog sports that will use a whistle. Some people will use a remote collar to page the dog and touch them to get the dog to look back. So if it's a true working situation, a remote collar probably is the way that I would go. I'd probably do like a double or triple tap at a low level to get the dog and train the dog to get that to have the dog look at me. But then what I would do after that Then what I would do after that is that when I would give the direction and then making sure that there's some kind of reinforcement when the dog is doing that. So, and I would also chain those things. I would have the dog, I would tap the dog would look at me. Then when the dog looks, I would point in the direction that I wanted the dog to go by not only pointing with my hands, but also pointing with my eyes in the direction I want them to go. When they go in the direction that I want, then using a clicker or a word like yes, or saying the word good, and then combining that. And then I would just get to work. I would practice and practice and practice to make sure that the dog really understood, that thing. But for all of you guys that are practicing directional sense, make sure that you're using your right hand to go right, your left hand to go left, and just be aware of keeping your body open. Keeping your body open as you're pointing in the direction. One last pointer. Make eye contact with the dog, and then point your body and point your head and your feet in the direction that you're wanting the dog to go. And it can provide a lot of clarity for those dogs that are going to be, they're doing directional work. All right, so what's next on the list?
What do I do when my dog is angry?
Yeah, you probably really need to take a little bit of a break. You got to take a little bit of a break, separate yourself from your dog, and you need to sit down and think, hey, what's going on? Like, my dog is angry. It's reacting in ways that are unpredictable and uncontrollable. So you really got to take a pause for a second, and you really got to ask yourself some questions. I think the first question that any of us need to ask ourselves is, what am I doing wrong, and how much am I doing wrong? I learned this recently, or I've heard this recently, maybe starting to learn it, is we never really realize how much we're doing wrong, because your habits are constantly telling you that you're on the right path. Yeah, there can be things that like you're running into in life that are kind of saying like, hey, you're going the wrong direction, but it's not always so obvious to us. The human vision and the vision of a dog is pretty small, right? It's not like you can't imagine the whole world. It's just too complex for your brain to be able to grab onto all of that. So when your dog is angry, the first thing you need to do is to separate yourself from your dog, get your dog into a kennel, get your dog into another room, and then try to get your emotions under control and begin to think, how much am I doing wrong and what am I doing wrong? One of the great things about dogs, and when they're having a really hard time and maybe having emotions, is you can make things very simple. Instead of giving yourself like a really complex problem, like how am I going to get my dog to become obedient, what I would encourage you to do is say, can I get my dog to stay in a particular place for 3 minutes, for 1 minute, for 15 seconds? And then what you do is you go grab your equipment, you go grab the dog's food, you grab the dog's leash, you grab anything that you use to be able to handle the dog, and you begin to learn how to use it. And then you start small, and you begin to work incrementally to be able to grow and to be able to help the dog understand what is it that you're actually trying to attain. And so anger is a very, very powerful emotion in dogs. It can be very dangerous. I have been bitten by an angry dog. I had to fight that dog for 2 minutes. It was a fight of my life. And the person that was in the room with me at the time, the owner of the dog that was attacking me, ended up saying, like, how did you stay so calm in the moment? And I don't really know how I stayed calm when I was, when I'm bleeding all over the floor and this dog is coming after me. But I think that if you can become calm when, things are out of control, and just really use the power of your brain to think and not panic together with the dog, I think that's going to set you up for a lot. That one traumatic moment that really broke my hand here and left me somewhat incapable of using it to the fullest extent really taught me a lot, and now it's probably made me a better dog trainer because of what happened there. Now, I don't wish that on anybody, but when you have an angry dog, get your equipment on there, start to think in simple terms of what you want your dog to do, and then begin to do that. And if you need help, that's what I'm here for. All right, next.
Someone asked, what type of crate do you recommend?
There's several crates. There's several crates that I recommend. The main one that I recommend in the beginning for practically anybody is going to be a wireframe crate. A wireframe crate is particularly good. I like the wireframe crate because it still allows the dog to be able to see you. They're pretty easy to clean if your dog actually has an accident or something like that. And they're really easy to transport in the car. But this is where things begin to change for me. I've used wireframe crates some, but what I've used, and I guess this is the name that I'm going to call it, but it's called a very kennel, and it's basically your plastic shell with your metal door on the front that has hinges. I like to use that crate in particular, just because I don't know. It's just I've always used them, and I think that my dogs have always enjoyed going into the crates, and we've done a good job. But man, from a training standpoint, the wireframe crate is a lot easier to deal, especially if you have a dog that's struggling with understanding about the crate. Then having a wireframe crate, I think, makes it a lot more adaptable, or a lot more. It's a lot easier for us. It's a lot easier for us to be able to get the dog to understand how to like the crate. Since we're talking about crates, just let me go over this real quick, okay? When you're trying to introduce a dog to anything, using the emotions of pleasure and comfort, which are your habit-building emotions, is the way that you go about doing anything. Don't be in a particular rush to get your dog into a crate if they've already had a bad experience in there. Plan, a good 20 to 40 minutes of time. And what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to show them that the inside of the crate is a place of the most pleasure and comfort. Okay. And so how do you do that? Well, one, you make it soft, right? You put a nice blanket in there. The other thing that you do is then you hand feed the dog in there. Hey, do me a favor real quick, okay? You see over there, like next to the sink, there's all those vials of the essential oils. See if you can find a lavender one there. Yeah, because I think there's one there. Yeah, it might be that, is that oh, wow, that's pretty good. So, when you've got a dog and you're introducing them to the wireframe crate and you're trying to get them good at that, one of the things that we've been doing for a while, and it actually works particularly well, is we've been using something like this. This is lavender essential oil. This one, probably we bought it at H-E-B or something like that. There's a whole bunch of different brands. This one is an organic one, but this lavender oil right here, what I do with it is I'll take a drop and put it into my hand. I won't put a bunch of drops, okay, because some of it can be toxic in excess. So you put a drop in your hands, and then you rub your hands with it. Then you rub your hands into the blanket that you put inside of the wireframe crate. And now you have a way for the dog to be able to associate that, hey, this is really good. Just one other thing, because I'm constantly thinking about scent with dogs. When I know that I have like an aggressive dog on my calendar, I use a lavender Castile soap, and I bathe in that when I know that I'm going to go see an aggressive dog. So that's one of the scents that's coming off of my body to be able to have a calming cue on a dog. So I'm a big fan for the wireframe crate. Oh yeah, and I do not like, for a crate, I do not like the little soft collapsible ones, just because they can be practical for some dogs, but the vast majority of them, it just really kind of gets in the way. Not very good crates, but they're all right. Wireframe and the very kennel was really ways that we should go, that I would go. All right, so Jamie had something.
Yeah.
What did she say? So I'll read it. How soon should you take a newly adopted dog out into public to socialize and train?
Thank you for asking that, Jamie.
Yeah, hey, that's a really fantastic question, Jamie. Thanks so much. So look, I'm going to tell you what my belief on this is. I feel that like when I look at socialization, a lot of people look at it as like my dog's ability to play well with other dogs. And the way that I look at socialization is I look at it as my dog's ability to ignore other dogs when they're together with me. But that they're also having a good time. So to answer the question specifically, how soon should you take a newly adopted dog out into public to socialize and train? Once you have taught them the skill that they're going to need in that environment. And let me get more specific. I specifically would not take a dog out in public unless they already knew the play stay and the beginnings of loose leash walking. If they do not know those two things and we're still in the teaching phase, we're not ready to begin to implementing that into more realistic environments. Make sure that the dog understands where the habit should be occurring, where the likelihood of the reward, but also make sure that the dog understands before you step foot outside your home, where are the boundaries that I'm going to impose. And so if you don't understand how to necessarily do that, how to set boundaries or how to, where you should be rewarding your dog, then our YouTube channel is a really great resource to be able to find videos. As a matter of fact, I have a whole bunch of virtual reality videos that can really show you in 3D, if you use a VR headset, where specifically you should be doing things. I think we actually had a VR video on leash walking that was released tonight at 7. Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking about socializing your adopted dog, out in public, I would go and watch the virtual reality video that we just posted, so that way you can see step number 2, not step 1, step number 2 of how I teach dogs how to walk on a leash. Now on the YouTube channel, I have a video that's called can you find the name of it real quick? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a video that's called The Wall Game, but I'm not sure exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the Wall Game video. Go into playlists. Yeah, it's just faster that way. I'd be interested if it came up like that.
I usually am able to find...
Oh, there it is. Yeah, so here's the name of the video. How to Train Your Dog to Heel in VR 180, the wall game. That's actually step 1 that I take to teach the dogs how to walk well with me. So let me get practical here. I would teach the dog the wall game. Then I would teach the dog the video that we just talked about now, which is showing the dog the dance of walking. And that's going to have a little bit of a public component to it. And then after that, after the dog was good at those, then I would take the dog into realistic public situations, because then at least I knew how to handle the dog, and the dog had an expectation of what it was that they were supposed to do.
What should I do when an off-leash dog comes running up to me and my dog?
Get ready for a fight. That's it. If an off-leash dog is going to come up to you and your dog, then you have to get ready for a fight, because you honestly just don't know what the other dog is going to do. There's a lot of things that could happen. You could try to be nice. One of the things that I do to prepare myself for this eventuality, because it is going to happen. It's going to happen to everybody at some point in their life if you spend any time walking dogs. You guys see me, I wear cargo pants so much, good Lord. But in one of the pockets of those cargo pants when I go out in public is an extra leash. It's a slip leash, all in one kind of combo. And if I get rushed by, yes, Crystal, that is a margarita. It's Cinco de Mayo. Sorry, I just saw your question. Mm-hmm. So look, when you go out walking and you get rushed by another dog, it's a good idea to have another slip leash. If you have your young puppy and your young puppy is just going about learning and you're having fun, and your dog actually gets attacked by another dog and you don't prevent it, you can now have a aggressive dog. And God, it's just one of the toughest things to deal with when your dog becomes dog aggressive because of that. So, 1, put an extra leash into your bag, into your pouch, into your cargo pants, in your back pocket. Have an extra leash on you. And then go out for your walk and, train your dog and have fun. But if the other dog charges you, get ready to use that leash in any way that you can. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. All those ways are going to cause you to use a lot of your human strength. But you do whatever it takes to protect your dog. I know a couple of weeks ago, I didn't really share this story. Maybe I think I told Mandy. I was walking in a neighborhood, and we were actually training with a dog, and we were walking back and forth. The dog was doing really well. Well, my client had her very young son out there, and my client's son started getting chased by a dog, and that dog was well on its way to biting this little kid. Did I tell you this?
No.
So little kid was about to get bit, and thank God that I charge dogs for fun in protection work, because as soon as I saw that, I yelled the way that I do when dogs are charging me down the field. And what I did is I got really big. I got into a sprint, and I just yelled, and the dog. Okay, so now I'm gonna brag. The dog tucked its tail from my.
So I think that's the winning answer.
Well, yeah, but it's violence, and like that it's fear and it's intimidation. But if you're getting charged, offering the dog a cookie is not going to stop the dog from doing that. Getting kind of scary looking and telling the dog to back off with some really aggressive body language is what you're going to have to do. And hey, nobody likes that, least of all me. But what you're going to let a kid get bit because of that? Well, not over my dead body.
That's scary.
Yeah, it is scary. And I've been charged by dogs when I was a little kid, and so I'm not going to allow that to happen to somebody now. So I just think that, if the off-leash dog comes up and charges you, a lot of them are going to be friendly. And if your dog is friendly, do your best to be compassionate. But look, at the end of the day, you gotta advocate for your dog. You gotta advocate for their space, and the other dog should not be off-leash. And you may have to say some ugly things to their owners because you just honestly do not know what that dog is going to do. And you don't know what your dog is going to do. If a friendly dog runs up to your dog and your dog is dog aggressive and decides to bite it, it's your dog's fault for having their personal space invaded. I have a really hard time with that. So you got to do whatever it takes to prevent them, to protect them, because in Texas or in any other state, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you have a non-reactive dog.
Yeah. If you're lucky, you have a non-reactive dog.
Okay, how do I teach my dog to be less anxious?
We've been talking about anxiety for some time now. And anxiety, did you hear that? That's so nice. That's my dishwasher, guys, because we're kind of in my kitchen. But that's just so nice. Like when your dishes are clean, that it just plays this really pleasant song for you. And you're like, man, this is really nice.
It'd be nicer if it would, load them and put them away too.
Yeah,
singing a song.
I can't.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, at least it sings a nice song to you.
Right.
Can't you just be happy with the dishwasher
It's
singing
cute,
a song and saying that, like, come and unload me now, Mandy?
Yeah.
Does your dishwasher sing to you?
No, my oven does.
Your oven does? Like,
Yeah.
is it the same song or is it different?
It's a
song?
different song, but same.
What's
type
the sound
of
like?
tune.
Just kidding.
We're not doing that.
You're not going to sing the song. Can you
No.
hum? Can you hum part of it?
No.
No, you can't. Okay.
No.
So Mandy can sing, by the way, y'all. So, but not with the iPhone lens pointing at her right now. So, okay, what were we talking about?
An anxious dog. How do I teach my dog?
Anxiety. Anxiety is one of those things. Thinking about anxious dogs, and really what that means is that their mind is engaged in the future and anticipating that nothing good can come out of the situation that I'm in. And so, man, I've seen some pretty nasty stuff in anxiety. I've seen dogs like in those wireframe crates. I've seen dogs in wireframe crates just tear up their face, tear up their paws, and do all of this. So I asked Jamie, I asked another dog trainer today, this question, because this question has really been on my head and I've been on my mind, and I've been meaning to ask you guys. Should you punish anxiety? This is a really, really good question. So let me just define punishment, because this is really where the definition of punishment is going to be the thing that really determines what this means. Okay, so punishment by definition, if you're looking at psychology, means to reduce the rate of a behavior. Okay. It's not good or bad. It's just saying that you're going to see less of that particular thing. So if you said, do I want to see less anxiousness, is equal to saying anxiousness should be punished, because you have to reduce the rate of the anxiety. So anytime that your dog enters into an anxious state, there needs to be something that tells your dog's brain to not go any further. And in general, those emotions are the emotions of frustration and discomfort. If your body becomes frustrated or becomes uncomfortable, that will bring awareness to whatever it is that you're doing and tell your brain to move away. Doesn't mean that you have to be injured. On the contrary, your brain is telling you that so that way you can avoid doing something that could lead to injury. But a lot of times what happens with the dog is the dog will enter into an anxious state of mind. They will dump so much adrenaline because they're right at the precipice of panic. And that adrenaline will prevent them from experiencing the discomfort and the frustration that actually will get them to become calm.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm trying to figure out, because I'm imagining my anxious dog, and like, there's literally nothing. I could probably, I've never put a shock collar on, but I could probably have it at the highest setting and it wouldn't faze her because,
That's right, because so once the adrenaline goes to a particular level, the body's reflex to that is to ignore, to get ready for the fight. And so it's a difficult thing. So what you got to do at the beginning signs of the anxiety is you have to say no further than this, because if it escalates, practically nothing will work for some dogs. Now, nobody's going to disagree with the next thing that I'm going to say. Some people might disagree with what I just said, but anxiety should be punished, also meaning the rate of anxiety should be diminished. Now, on the other hand, nobody's going to disagree with this. The rate of pleasure, comfort, and eventually hopefulness should be increased. But the problem with an anxious dog, especially like with separation anxiety, is that you have to actually leave the dog not become anxious, and then you return to reward the dog when they're not in the anxious state. But if the dog is in the anxious state and you return when they're in their anxious state, you just reinforce the anxiety. Reinforcement of an anxious state is a bad thing. Punishment of an anxious state is a good thing. Reinforcement of a calm state of mind and a hopeful state of mind is the single best thing that you can do. But if your dog cannot become calm, then you have to do something to get the dog out of that. So very, very important to understand that it's a two-sided coin. You can't just ignore the anxiety and hope that it goes away. Something must tell the brain that you cannot go any further, and then you have to begin to build the habit of living a calm lifestyle. Okay? Looks like we had another question right here. Hey, Danny, good to see you, man. So my fiance has 2 older chihuahuas. What is the best way to get them acclimated with my 4-year-old boxer who is submissive to the chihuahuas? Oh, that's really funny, man. You know, a lot of really big dogs are submissive to these dogs. And a lot of times what it is these chihuahuas are really throwing very aggressive body language. Now, I don't necessarily know these two older chihuahuas, but you know, the thing that I always see with this breed of dogs, and I'm kind of generalizing here, is that these small breed of dogs generally are very excitable, do not listen particularly well, and don't understand their boundaries. So today I had my friend Jamie over in my home, and she had her Doberman, she had her Husky, and then I had my 2 German Shepherds, Fritz and Gabby. So we had 4 dogs inside the living room, and they were all on their place. Fritz and Gabby were on my couch. That was their place at the time. And then we had the 2 other dogs on places that were just in my living room. And so that's really the best way to begin to teach your dogs to actually coexist with each other in a passive way. They don't necessarily need to be interacting with each other, but what they do need to do is they need to be in the room with the humans and understand that, hey, you run this place. It should be fun and it should be happy. It doesn't necessarily need to be excited, but every dog needs to be calm. And calmness, a lot of times, at least in the beginning, looks like some kind of play stay, and it's very easy. So what I'd recommend is getting elevated beds for the chihuahuas. I know, and one for your boxer, and then putting leashes on all of them. And then over the course of the next week, feed them all their meals on their elevated beds. And each and every time that those dogs come off their bed, any one of them, the Chihuahuas or the Boxers, the Boxer, you're going to put the dogs back on with the leash. And you're going to practice that. And as you practice that, the dogs will then begin to respect and value the humans. And that will actually allow your Boxer to be able to relax a little bit and not have to deal with that. You got to advocate for the dog. And that's really what we're trying to do. And Jamie actually said it pretty well. Establish clear boundaries or dogs will make their own, and you won't necessarily always like that. Now, I don't know if your Chihuahuas have acted aggressively or not, but the fact of the matter is that your Chihuahuas need to be able to understand how to respect all the humans in there, and they also need to be able to respect the dogs that are living inside your home. And so the play stay is a great way to begin to start that. Okay. Let's go maybe one more question. Would you see one that's pretty good?
How do I teach my boys to interact with my puppy?
Yeah, this is a really good thing because I like getting kids involved in actually being able to train dogs. So what do you think? What do you think I'm going to say? What do you think is a good way to get kids involved in training? And I know you kind of have a passion for that, for kids learning, interacting with them. What do you think?
How to help with training specifically?
Yeah, if you were doing like a play stay or something like that,
they could reward the dog, like they could.
Yeah, I think that's good. So and when I'm thinking about particular rewards right there, like what do you think, like out of these things, what do you think the best reward for like a kid to do, like having a toy for the dog to play tug with, maybe a piece of food?
If they're old enough, well, yeah, maybe a piece of food, depending on how the dog takes food. Some dogs aren't gentle.
Yeah, that's right.
And if the kid is old enough to pet gently, then maybe they could pet and say "good dog."
Okay, so that's pretty good. Yeah. So there's four ways that you can reward. You can reward with toys, you can reward with food, with petting, and with praise. So in general, you want to let the kids understand that they can reward, but you also have to teach the kids what are the things that we're actually rewarding for. A lot of times we ask kids to interact with the dog, but we don't show the kids what are the things that you're going to actually reward the dog for. So having a very clear picture in your head of, hey, we're going to reward the dog for having their butt down and elbows down on the bed, and we're going to reward the dog for staying on their bed for 2.5 minutes. And the time that you go up to the dog is after your mom, your dad has said, good dog. So the adult says, good dog. And then the kids go over there and they reward. Now, what kind of reward? Well, it really depends on the dog. And it goes back to what I talked about at the beginning. You have to look at the dog. Teaching the dog to be calm around the children is important. So here's one technique that might work. As their child is approaching the dog with the food in their hand, if the dog begins to get excited, that means it's in a down and it sits or stands, then your child actually walks away. But then after that, if the dog actually becomes calm, then your child comes back. So it's really a game of the dog is coming up and down and the child is moving back and forth. But if the dog stays in the down the whole time, then the child can hand the piece of food. And that's one particular good way that I think that you can actually go about showing the dog how to respect the child and teaching the child how to interact and reward and build those ever important habits.
The Pet Education Project they have the app that is specifically made for kids.
Can you link to that and just put that up there? I think if you can find it, and then we'll.
So in this app, it just teaches the kids how to take care of a pet through this app, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, can't find it right now. We'll talk about it some more.
Just look up. I think you can go to the App Store and put in Pet Education Project.
Well, we'll make sure that we talk about it the next time that we do the show. So
ready.
Well, guys, hey, that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and send my ladies home, and I'm gonna drink another margarita probably and
watch Game of Thrones.
I'm gonna watch Game of Thrones. So hey, guys, we love y'all. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.